welcome to the HBCU season kickoff presented by Allstate. I am your host, Lyles Jr, alongside Tiffany, Greene, and Jay Walker. Guys, how are we feeling? Season's back.
Feeling good, feeling great. How are you?
Feeling good, feeling great.
Always good to be back that time of year, starting to see folks like yourself, me getting back to my football folks, and sitting here, see she's got a little glow on her, right?
Always.
That FAMU glow from a season ago is still there.
Always.
For a little while longer. That rain is up for debate now.
Always, absolutely. And the only way to get us into the new season is to see how the previous one ended. Obviously, we had the SWAC coming off of their first ever sweep of the MEAC SWAC Challenge and Celebration Bowl. Obviously, we were there for Jackson State's victory over South Carolina State, and they crashed the Buddy Pugh party. And then also FAMU trying to defend that 2023 title. Obviously, for those not familiar, we have a couple of alumni here. So, with that said, Tiff, as a FAMU alum, how were you feeling with the Celebration Bowl victory over Jay's Bison?
It was a long time coming. We refer to Jay and his Howard Bison as number 2. Okay. So that's how we refer to him throughout the season, number 2. But, you have to give credit to the job that Willie Simmons did. And the fact that 12-1, going undefeated in the SWAC and putting the cherry on top for a season. This was a long time coming, Jay. This was something that he was really working towards and had on his, mind. And hold on, wait a minute. Let me see that. No, I just want you to see the dunks there, just so you know. And on the back, it says we brag different. I'm just saying.
First of all, your mama gonna be embarrassed. You just showed your heels on TV. That's one thing. We know that thing. But outside that, I'm gonna say this. I will give the Rattlers credit, and the reason why I'll give them credit. They did it the right way. No excuses, no gimmicks, no, on probation, should have won a championship. None of this, our coach is leaving. Oh, this player got hurt. They are the undisputed HBCU national champions from 2023. So I will give them credit for that. They took care of their business. They came in preseason ranked to be the defendant, to become champions. They won the championship. No excuses. About time, no excuses. At Florida A&M.
Don't start it, because you always want to be starting. No, JC, you know what?
I gave them credit. They won.
Hey, and honestly, I didn't think we were going to hear that. That's a big deal.
Harry, I just want you to know that's probably the last time that we'll hear anything like that.
It's always something with FAMU. It's always something.
Yeah, but the number 1 public HBCU, I just want to let you know that, and now the number 1 team in all of HBCU football.
That?
Let that sit and let it marinate. Let it hit your soul and your spirit, okay? And let it use you.
I tried, Harry. I tried, right? She said the number 1 public ranked HBCU. Yeah. All right, when you look at HBCU rankings, my school, Howard University, is always listed as number 2. Yes. Right behind number 1 Spelman.
How fitting.
So do you see me?
How fitting.
Do you see me?
Proving my point.
Do you see me coming on TV saying we're the number 1 co-ed HBCU in the country?
No.
No, exactly. We're the 2nd ranked HBCU in the country, ahead of your number 3 ranked Florida A&M. So let's not get it twisted.
Speaking of rankings, and we're going to have plenty of this for you coming up here on the show, but neither one of y'all's teams are favored in their division for this upcoming season. Jay, do you feel that is fair for your Howard Bison?
We can deal with it. We can deal with it. You know why? Because Howard University is America's HBCU, and for years, we're always an academic institution first. So until you win over and over again and get your colleagues to respect you, I'm not surprised. Yeah. Howard's not supposed to be on the top of the football world. But the Bison had a great year under Coach Scott. The fact that they beat North Carolina Central by like 40 points last year, and you put Central ahead of them, well, the Bison should be upset about that. But I'm not really surprised because, we're Howard.
Yeah.
And they ain't like us.
And Tiff, speaking of Central, they are on top of the preseason standings there again. What does that say about the state of that program?
Well, I think that Trey Oliver has done an amazing job, honestly, because it's a culture over scheme type of idea, and he comes from the tree of your Sam Washingtons, your Rod Broadways, and so he believes in developing from within. And Davius Richard was a gift to him for all 4 years in the way that he was able to develop him. That talent continues now. We'll see if Walker Harris can be that guy. But Trey Oliver is like intense. Y'all been around him. If you've ever seen him, you know it. And those players, I think, feed off of that.
But let's be honest. How fair is it? Davius Richard was the HBCU Player of the Year, 2 years running, and he's gone. And we know the backup Walker's pretty good. But, however, to rank them over a team that beat you by 40, where are you getting those 40 points of offense from? That's bulletin board material day 1 for Howard University right there. I think that's the bigger disrespect than some of the other rankings we've seen.
Absolutely. And speaking of other rankings, FAMU picked 2nd Do you feel like that's fair to the defending champs?
No, I don't, because I don't think that it is warranted. And I'm going to say this because Alabama State showed flashes of what they could do, and there was a lot of expectations coming into this season. But as my partner would always say, in order to be the man, you've got to beat the man. And right now, nobody's been able to beat Florida A&M. They went undefeated in the SWAC last season. Alabama State has a lot of hope. But at the end of the day, it's FAMU who has the hardware.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree with her. Alabama State is a team on the rise, unproven, though. Unproven. And you have to have quarterback play. Florida A&M, the surrounding cast, that's a group that's won a lot of football games, particularly in that conference. And for them to take a team that has not won and competed for a championship in quite a long time, I think that's disrespectful as well. So I'm going to agree with that. I think, like Florida A&M, they deserve the opportunity to be ranked number one in their conference.
Sure.
We're not talking about the national rankings in their conference. What's going on in that SWAC?
Now, let me ask you this, because they did bring in Andrew Body from Texas Southern.
Yes.
What is the potential there of that offense for Alabama State?
Look, he's got to be the missing piece. I mean, Eddie Robinson is a defensive coach by trade. So the defense at Alabama State is always going to be very good. They can compete for a championship. But Andrew Body needs to go back to playing like we saw him at Texas Southern. He's that dual-threat quarterback that when the play breaks down, he can get very creative and find a way to hurt you, and I think that's what they're going to utilize. Play great defense, and on offense, we want Mr. Body to show that he's a contender for the SWAC Offensive Player of the Year.
Now, Tiff, that's the East. What about the West here? Who do you like out West?
There's the problem. I don't know. I mean, because it is so up for grabs, and that's what we saw the last really couple of seasons. Prairie View A&M making it to the SWAC championship game, not necessarily the showing that they would have wanted to have a 500-year under Bubba McDowell, but I think Alcorn State has been that team that's been right there on the cusp. They moved over a few years ago from the East Division to the West Division, and I think Cedric Thomas, who was a part of that inaugural coaching staff that made it to the Celebration Bowl back in 2015, now takes the reign for the Braves and has a different sense of attitude and swagger down there on the reservation. So I think it's still up for grabs, but you can also obviously put those Grambling State Tigers and Southern Jaguars in the mix as well.
No.
14 race.
No.
14 race. Yes.
I mean, I'm going to say for them to pick Alcorn to be the number one team in the West, I don't get it. I mean, Alcorn joined the West, 3-4 years ago, and we thought they were going to make an immediate splash. They have not busted a grape since they've been in the West. They have not come close, and I'm calling them out for it. We really thought that they were going to be really good. Right? They're going to the West. The West is going to be so much more competitive. They're getting away from Jackson State FAMU. They've not come close in the West. So to say they're going to win it this year, that's disrespectful to Prairie View A&M. Prairie View A&M, no offense last year, but the defense was good enough. That defense still coming back, right? They made it to the championship. Southern University put up a lot of points. They got a coaching change. That's right. Alcorn's got a new coach coming in. That's a coaching change. So it's like, nah, Grambling's got a new coach coming in there. So it's wild, but to give it to Alcorn, who ain't busted grapes since they've been on that west side. I don't see that.
But they have been right there in the hunt. It's been a game or two. You know, it was like a couple years ago, Prairie View A&M kind of backdoored their way in this year. Again, it was not the greatest showing, if you will. But that's the problem with the West.
They were getting busy.
That's the problem with the West. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to grab
what's the more dominant side, the East or the West?
The East.
Okay, and so Alcorn won the East.
Right.
They made it to the Celebration Bowl winning the East. They go over to the West, which is easier. They ain't busted great.
I got to tell you, Jay Walker knows something about beating Alcorn State. Go look that up for me real quick. But
Not once.
Not once, but twice.
All right.
Tiff, give us your preseason top 5.
All right, so I've got to go with looking in at number 5. Let's go with the Alcorn State. Jackson State. Jackson State. And here's why. Because we just talked about how strong the East is, right? So Jackson State, second year under T.C. Taylor coming up, but this was a good debut for him, I felt like. A 7-4 record overall. They finished second in the SWAC East, and they've got a lot of players coming back. Jacorian Morgan is someone who I'm looking forward to seeing. Alabama State. So I'm going to give Eddie Robinson Jr. some love. Coming off the best season that they've had in nearly a decade. They had a great defense. They're going to add to that, as we've talked about with Andrew Body, but they've also bolstered it with Rico Dozier coming over from UAPB. So Alabama State, while unproven, I think has a lot to show us this year. Okay, Howard. Yes.
Ain't you?
So you're left alone there in the dark. But how about Eaton James and that wonderful attack they had in the backfield with him and Jarrett Hunter, the preseason Offensive Player of the Year in the MEAC. They showed what they could do in game time situations. Most impressive, though, when they were able to put up 50 against NCCU. Number 2, North Carolina Central. Yep, they made it to the playoffs last year. The only team out of the MEAC with a winning record going in at 9-3. So, yes, Howard beat them. However, many felt like if that game were to be played again, that Central would have been the better team. I could have seen them in the Celebration Bowl, and I expect them to be there this year. And of course, Florida A&M, the Rattlers, just strike, and strike again. You've heard it well, you know it well, Jay, and the way that they dominated on both sides of the ball. That dark cloud defense was impeccable, but you also have to give credit to Willie Simmons and the job that he did on the offensive side of the ball and using all of those weapons, many of them, as you mentioned, returning. And so that is my top 5. Now, according to Tiffany Greene, now we just had this argument prior to, because you see no schools out of the SWAC West represented here, not even the SWAC West champions from a season ago, Prairie View A&M.
Then you got 3 teams from the SWAC East, 3 teams from the SWAC East.
And what we just say, who's the strongest?
We say it's the strongest one there, but I'm going to ask, okay, where's Prairie View on your list? Made it to the SWAC championship, beat a couple of teams on that list you saw right there. So where's that? That's the one I would nitpick on right there. And if you're saying the SWAC East is that strong, then that's the West. Grambling Southern, those are the blue bloods, so that they could be there. But solid list. I mean, of course you're going to put FAMU number 1. That's what
who wouldn't?
That's what the conference did do.
They're the defending champs, so they got it wrong. They're the defending champs, so they got it wrong.
And then for you to put Central above Howard, and you just said Howard put a 50-piece on them, right?
They did.
Okay, and both of them are losing their quarterbacks, right?
But if I played that game again, if that game were played again,
I heard you say that comment that Central win again.
Yeah,
I heard
did.
you say that.
But I'll give Howard credit. They exceed expectations.
And they scared the heck out of Florida A&M in the Celebration Bowl, jumping out to a 14-point lead in a classic game there. So both teams are trending in the right direction. But
indeed.
Look at that.
Maybe on the bubble. Let me give it.
I love the cordialness.
And they got a new coach. They got a new coach. Your coach isn't proven yet. Colsey, the third.
He was
guy, but you lost one of the winningest coaches of all time. But yet you still made him number 1. Ain't that what you do?
All right. Well, since we got FAMU at the top of Tiff's list, we gotta balance this act here. We gotta get some HU in here. So let's bring in Kenny Gallop Jr. from Howard University. Kenny, how are we doing this morning?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Doing great.
How you doing, Mr. J?
What's going on, Bison? How you doing? You coming from the weight room?
Good. Fresh out of practice, literally.
Fresh out of practice, you guys obviously have a lot of expectations this year. How's the team looking so far, and what are your own personal expectations for your team this year?
Every new year, is different. It's exciting. It's a new journey for us. But I feel like the guys, man, we look good. A lot of competitive on the field. In camp so far. And, it's been really exciting just to see the new guys out, get the chemistry together. We've been in the weight room and, summer conditioning all summer, but now it's actually putting the pads on and drawing the X's and O's. So I'm really excited for this year.
Hey, Kenny, before we go into this upcoming year, coming off a season ago, you had a fantastic year, named All-American. A lot of pressure on you, a lot of concern whether or not you were coming back to Howard or were you going to hit the portal. Why was that Howard education so important to you? And more importantly, why did you decide that you were going to come back to Howard University?
Right. So, this education thing, I said this before, it was just a 40-year decision instead of a 4 for me. So, I promised my mother that, I'd graduate and get my degree at Howard University. So that's something I want to stick with. And then, just Howard, man, and anybody Jay, man, it's just the connections, the people you meet, man, it's just bigger than, the money and the NILs and things like that. So the connections was bigger for me. So that's the real reason why I stayed at Howard.
I respect that of you, Kenny, a great student athlete, and the way that you have been a wonderful spokesperson for Howard University. But I also want to ask on the field, like we were just talking about that Celebration Bowl, how do you then walk away with a championship this year?
Right. So the main thing, Coach Scott, he done a great job of this preaching. We got to finish. We have to finish. We started out hot against FAMU. And, we didn't finish a lot of games. We started off all hot against Hampton, and we didn't finish. So, that's been our biggest thing we've been practicing. And, we just worry about finishing everything you do, and on the field or off the field. So we just mainly focus on finishing the games and, continue to play hard, even though we got a comfortable lead.
Kenny, let me ask you this. You saw the rankings. You were down in Norfolk for the MEAC Media Day. You all are the reigning MEAC champions, but yet predicted to come in second place in the conference. What's the team outlook on being predicted to come in second place, a conference that you all won a season ago?
Right. We feel like a little bit of disrespect, but at the end of the day, we know, man, you play with your past, man. A lot of the rankings, the guys talking, off the field, it does nothing for you on the field. So, we're excited for the task, and put a little fuel to the fire. So we're very excited for this upcoming season.
Let me give you one little last bit, too. 100-year anniversary of Howard Homecoming. So you know what that means, right?
Right.
We don't lose homecoming.
For sure. For sure.
Kenny, obviously that Hampton game is always circled on the schedule, but what's one that you've got circled on your own calendar for this year?
For me, man, the first game, against Rutgers,
Okay.
I feel like, it's a money game for us. We get to prove and show that, we compete with the highest level. And, it's exciting. A lot of people are going to be watching, it's on Big Ten Network, a Thursday night game now. So, it's very exciting, man. And there's also that, that first game of the season, getting them chills out the way. So I'm excited for that game probably the most.
Kenny, we appreciate the time. Good luck this season and wishing you good health as well.
Man, thank you. God bless to y'all.
And now we have talked about teams. Let's take a look at the Good Hands players presented by Allstate. Jay, give me 5 players to watch this year.
Wow, there's a bunch of it you got to choose from, but I'm going to start off at number 5. Defense wins championship. Their expectations at Morgan State University for the first time in a long time. Eric Hunter is an NFL-type player. He and Kenny Gallop will compete for the MEAC Defensive Player of the Year. If he can continue to put up numbers like he did a season ago, the Bears have a chance. Number 4, well, let's go to the nation's capital. Jared Hunter. The thing that makes Howard special, they run the football better than most teams in that conference. They've got a 3-headed monster running back, but Jared Hunter is that guy that can get it done to go along with the rest of that backfield. If he can average 4 yards a carry, look for the Bison to be in contention for a championship. But as much as I love offense, you got to have defense. And we talk about defense, and the thing that was underestimated for Florida A&M, their defensive prowess. The secondary of Florida A&M was one of the best in the country. They can hit, they can run, and Kendall Bowler is the leader of the pack. His brother played DB there. He's the next in that generation. He's an NFL talent that finds a knack for the football when it's called upon, and they're going to need to call his name often if you're a fan of the Rattlers. You just heard from the man, the myth, the legend.
That's right.
Coming back, Kenny Gallop is the number 1 ranked pro prospect of all the FCS players there, a ball hawk that's around the football. If he plays well, the Bison can repeat and make it back to Atlanta. He's got to be all around the football. In this upcoming season, take a look for Kenny Gallop to try and do some special things there for the Bison of Howard University. And when you talk about number 1, I think there's no more pressure than anybody playing football this season at HBCU than Andrew Body. We talked about what he accomplished at Texas Southern University. Expectations are high, not for him just to go and win the starting job at Alabama State, but he has to flourish as the starting quarterback. If he can play as good as the expectations are or the hype is, look for the Hornets to have a chance at making it to Atlanta.
Tiff, any thoughts on the list that we've got here?
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. And I think also sharing that pressure is the player on the bubble and quarterback Myles Crowley for Grambling State, because he's the one who returns within the conference, who has a year under his belt. So I think Myles Crowley has a chance to allow the Tigers to really make a dent within that SWAC West. Like we were talking about before, and Eaton James is also a very special running back like you have on the bubble.
And there's always pressure. Like, anytime you're a starting quarterback at Grambling University, there's always going to be pressure on you.
Yep,
I mean, that's the most famous position in all of HBCU football. So Myles Crowley, he's got to compete. They have a new coaching staff in there. They want to see what he can do. So a lot of pressure on that young man there.
No, without a doubt. And speaking of pressure, Andrew Body was somebody that you had mentioned, a transfer. He's got big expectations on him this year. How have you guys sort of seen the transfer portal affect HBCU football? Obviously, we saw how it affected Jackson State when Dion was there. But generally speaking, now we've got a bigger sample size. How have you seen it affect HBCU football?
I've seen it twofold. I mean, when you talk to coaches around the country, they all say, we want to get older quicker. And the way to do that is going to the portal. So whether it used to be you would go to junior colleges if you're at HBCU school, go to junior college, get some guys come in and compete. Well, now they're going in there and they're getting better quality caliber football players, and your team can get older in a hurry, and they're utilizing that. Alabama State, one of the teams that's predicted to be the favorite. Well, not only Andrew Body's there, but they've got a number of transfers that to give them experience where they feel like they may have a couple chinks in the armor. So I think for the HBCU world, as a fan, you're seeing better football players because they're coming down sometimes from Division I programs or FBS programs, taking the level down. Physically, they are. But then you've also got the flip side. You've got some schools that absolutely say, we'll get 1 or 2 players. We believe in growing it, which is, I think, the way you need to go. I think you have to grow HBCU football players there. So they believe in trying to grow them, make them Howard men, make them Florida A&M people, make them the school, your alma mater choice right there. So I think it's a coin toss, but like the college football landscape is changing. Definitely HBCUs are being affected.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And there's not much to add to it because the way that we've seen it work effectively, honestly, is kind of the growing of those players. You think about Buddy Pugh and what he did a couple of years ago against Deion's, transfer laden Jackson State team, and it was all heart, but those South Carolina boys coming in there and taking it to them. The same thing the next year with North Carolina Central, once again doing it. So I think it remains to be seen, and I think that's the big question mark: is how quickly can you get these players to gel together within your program, because there is such newness. And when you have something like Florida A&M that has a new head coach, that has a number of new players coming in, well, how quickly can you get on the same page and go towards that goal?
Yeah, and you mentioned that Jackson State program. Obviously, this is year 2 under T.C. Taylor. We saw them kick off the season last year, got to a strong start. They had their ups and downs last year. What is sort of the state of that program in y'all's eyes, and where do you feel like TC's got that thing going?
I think it's in great hands. I mean, he's got a ton of charisma, and he's got a lot of backing and a number of players that are back with him. Ja'Cory Morgan, the quarterback who came on, because there was some indecision there at the start of the season, and we saw that on ABC in that MEAC SWAC Challenge game. But now Ja'Cory Morgan looks like he's going to grab hold of that quarterback position. Irv Mulligan returns, a number of guys that are wideouts on the outside. So I feel like T.C. Taylor is the right guy for that job, and he speaks the language of Jackson State. He is Jackson State through and through, and so I think he is like a continuation of, and in a very positive way, of what was started with Deion.
I think the distractions are gone. And I think, Coach Prime, and those are good distractions. I mean, all the publicity was great publicity they were getting down there. In the words of P.T. Barnum, there's no such thing as bad publicity. But the distractions are gone. T.C. Taylor wants to play football, and these guys have been through a lot. The players at Jackson State, and I think last year they were more disappointed in what happened with the rest of the season. So I think a team like that, that's been through so much on and off the field, right now they can focus, go back to trying to win and compete and win a SWAC championship. The singular focus is to go and do that. I don't think they're worried about the distraction, so I think Jackson State could be that team that could come and give Florida A&M and Alabama State a run for the money.
Let's push forward to this year. FAMU coming in, new coach James Colsey III. Tiff, what opportunity does he have in front of him, and what do you expect to see out of that team?
Well, a wonderful one, because you have to think about the continuity that is from that last staff to the current staff. James Colsey was on that staff. The offensive coordinator, Joe Henry, was a co-offensive coordinator. He will get the opportunity to call the plays, and James Colsey will call that defense. And yes, there was a lot of turnover when it comes to staff, but he is a guy who fans and alumni wanted to be in that position to feel like they could keep that momentum going. Yes, there's a question mark at quarterback, and what are they going to do? You talked about the transfer portal. They tapped into it, guy from Miami, a couple of other players, Austin Hooker, who we saw, who played at North Carolina A&T at one point. So I think there is a great cautious optimism, but FAMU, you got to win, and you got to win now. So you got to keep this train going. So it's not going to be easy. A loss or two early on is going to be damaging, I think. Could be.
I just think FAMU wants to play football. I mean, everything's going on. They won a championship. Florida A&M just wants to play football. Colsey, the new coach, wants to play football. All these questions, new coaches coming, new quarterback. They just want to play football. At the end of the day, what Florida A&M is really good at is playing football. So I think them going down to Atlanta, playing this game, proving to everybody, hey, we're better than the coach that just left or the reigning champ. They just want to play football, and I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Speaking of them playing football, Jay, you played a little offense yourself. What do you expect this offense to look like now that Willie Simmons is gone and that adjustment, and you mentioned that new quarterback?
Yeah, the creativity. I mean, what made Florida A&M offense so special was Willie Simmons, no doubt about it. His play calling. He was a head coach, but he was one of the most creative minds on the offensive side of the football that we've seen in a while. Who's going to replace that? And I think normally when you get a defensive coach that takes over, they hold things a little bit closer to the vest. I mean, 3rd and 3, they're not going to take that long shot. They're going to go ahead and try to run the football, see what they can gain. So I think that's going to be the different identity that Florida A&M folks aren't used to. Willie was the gunslinger. Sure. They called him a gunslinger. He dialed it up and hit you for a home run. And they forgot about those strikeouts. Yep. So I think with a defensive coach, they're not willing to strike out. They just want to make contact and give the defense a chance to
Remember
win.
that flea flicker last
in the celebration bowl.
In the celebration bowl, I mean. So it's speaking exactly to that in terms of being that gunslinger and willing to take chances.
And you mentioned defense, Jay Tiff, that dark cloud defense. I mean, they were great last year, should be good again this year. What do you sort of expect out of that group with this team?
I'm really curious to see what it's going to be like up front, right? The interior linemen. There are a lot of key losses due to graduation or transferring out of the program, but that dark cloud defense has developed an identity, but they're going to do it now, again, with a new head coach. So I think they're still going to have that hunger and that fight and that bite to them. They're going to swarm around the football, but it's going to take guys like a Kendall Bowler Jr., or Kendall Bowler, as you mentioned, to really kind of lead the way and carry over that attitude.
Now, Jay, on the other side of the ball, we've got Norfolk State, and it's contract year for Dawson Odoms. What is sort of your expectations of them this year, and what do you need to see out of them in this opening game?
They've got a quiet confidence about them. I mean, they returned the most starters in the conference from a season ago. So on the offensive side of the ball, they're starting 22. They've got 18 back on defense, starting 22. They've got 19 back. They went through the growing pains of getting beat as freshmen and sophomore. Now this team is experienced. They were competitive in all their games, but they got worn down at the end. So I think there's a quiet confidence that Dawson Odoms knows this is probably his signature team since he's been at Norfolk State. He knows there's a little heat on him, so the seat's a little hot right now, but he feels like I've got a group that's battle-tested, that can play, and they're going to rely on the experience of guys that have been there in the close games. This whole offseason, it was finish the deal. Finish the deal. We know we can compete. How do we close? And anytime you can learn to close, you're talking about a dangerous football team.
And Tiff, and at the quarterback position for the Spartans, Otto Kuhn's 3rd year, what are your expectations of him, especially as, again, we talk about them going against this dark cloud defense?
Well, anytime that you can have an experienced quarterback who has taken snaps and who feels comfortable running the offense, you put yourself in a good position. And Otto Kuhn has shown that he can manage the offense. Now, can he move from a kind of game manager and can he go out and win you some football games? Can he make those throws and those plays when necessary? I think there's a comfortability that they will have with him, but who are going to be the surrounding targets around him? Those skill guys, they're going to step up and help him shine.
And I think, you say Coons is the guy, the quarterback, but I mean he's going to be pressing quarterback competition as well. And I'm going to say he's probably the weak link on that one. They put a lot on his plate last year, and he didn't necessarily deliver. He was average at best, I believe, even though he's named preseason all-conference. He's got to step it up. I mean, that's what college football is. Okay, you set who you are your junior year, your senior year, you elevate, and you play your best football of your career. That's what he needs to do. He needs to show he's improving in decision-making. He's a little bit more athletic than he was a season ago. Arm got a little bit stronger. I don't think they put it all on him. I think Norfolk State wins because the rest of the guys around him are going to be difference makers. They need a playmaker to step up.
But, Jay, when you think about it, too, though, like this is a great opportunity for Otto Kuhns, right, to make a statement on national television that, yes, we are here and we can do this. Does he take an additional type of pressure into the season or just kind of get up a little more anteed up going into a game on ABC?
Yeah, and I think for him, he's preseason all-conference. You're going to be playing on national TV, biggest stage you're going to see right there. You tend to go out there and try and do too much. This is a team that's got a return experience around you. This is not the game you go out there and you say, you know what, I'm going to be the All-American quarterback right now. You go out there and win. You're trying to pull off an upset. You got to win. You have to play good football, not hurt your football team there against a very talented team there. So my advice to him would be take what the defense gives you, and then when 3rd down and short, when it's time for you to make a play, you only need to make 1 or 2 plays in this game.
Now, on the other side with FAMU, Jay, Jeremy Moose is gone. You got some new faces. You mentioned Bryson Martin from Miami. Yeah. Who do you sort of expect to step up in that room, and what are we going to see out of them as they go against the Spartan defense?
Well, I mean, the key is you got great running backs. So whoever the quarterback is, rely on your running back and rely on those bubble screens that they use to their wide receivers. I mean, you talk about, Hooker, I'm going to go on Austin Hooker because his dad was a legendary quarterback for North Carolina A&T. His brother, Hendon Hooker, is playing in the National Football League, lit it up there. So he'd be a guy that is expected to compete. But at the same time, Junior is not going to give it up. I think Junior is going to be the starter until he does not play well. You get a look at Junior there. Strong arm. He's taking the time. He's paid his dues. It's his opportunity to show that he could be the guy that they thought he could be. Big arm guy there, but it's his first time making a start on national TV. So Junior, same thing. You've been waiting for it. Seize the moment. Take advantage of it and show everybody there is no QB competition down in Tallahassee.
Also, plus, you got to put on a show if Tiff and Jay are going to be there. I didn't even get an invite to the party this year. So
we miss you. We want you back.
Hey, it's exclusive company. It's going to be a great game.
You're always welcome.
Always.
Man.
Didn't you give us the welcome to Atlanta last year?
I sure did.
Come on now.
I could list every peach tree in the book. But the season is not without a little bit of controversy. They moved the date of the Celebration Bowl from the third Saturday to the second Saturday in December. SWAC does not get a week off. The MEAC gets 3 weeks off. You guys are very opinionated, especially you, Jay. We'll come to you second. Tiff, what are your thoughts on that?
The SWAC already went in with a disadvantage, right? With the MEAC already getting a month off. So now they get 3 weeks off, and the SWAC gets no weeks off. You go straight from Bayou Classic to SWAC Championship, and then boom, right into the Celebration Bowl. And I think that is a disadvantage. Honestly, your body is weary after 12, 13 games within the season. You don't give yourself a break. And I think finally, coaches had to come around and understand, hey, look, this is for the betterment of the Celebration Bowl and get ahead of all of the games with the new playoff system that we have with college football expansion. So the playoff expansion. So yeah, I think the SWAC is at a great disadvantage, and I honestly anticipate that the MEAC.
They're just trying to give them the MEAC trophy.
Those fresh legs, it's going to matter at the end.
It's I've been thinking about this a lot, and at first I was saying it's a tremendous disadvantage for 3 teams. Grambling and Southern, who play the Bayou, and Alabama State, who plays the Turkey Day Classic. They won't have a break. But all 3 of those schools, before their big rivalry game, they take a week off. So Grambling and Southern aren't playing the week before the Bayou Classic. Alabama State not playing before the Turkey Day Classic. And then on the flip side of that, for the MEAC, you've heard the coaches complain, a month off is a long time. How do you shake off the cobwebs? So do you get off to a fast start, or is it a slow start, getting used to hitting everybody again? So end of the day, I can see both sides. I think it's tough for the SWAC champion, no doubt about it, because you play that championship then the next week. But if you're hot, keep it going. Mm-hmm. I'm taking a negative, turn into a positive. Yeah. Hey, we win the SWAC championship. If we don't get beat up physically, we got a chance to keep doing well. We're playing at our highest level of the season, so take advantage of that. And for the MEAC, the question is, okay, you don't know who you're going to play till a week before, right, and you got a quick week to scout them. So I think, play football. The best team's going to win. 100%. It's always been the best team always wins.
The game is going to be played no matter what. But before we get out of here, let's get some Celebration Bowl picks. Tiff, who do you got?
I got FAMU over North Carolina Central.
Jay?
I'm going with the Bison to make it back. I think Howard is going to make it, and I don't believe Florida A&M is going to be there. So if I had to go from the SWAC, I'm gonna go with Jackson State. I would say it would be Jackson State that would make it.
Hey, that would be pretty big for T.C. Taylor in his second year, yep. and he's a good guy. So it wouldn't be the worst thing to see that.
Now we just made a lot of enemies on TV.
Right. We did.
You know who's not upset? Their alma mater, because they absolutely held it down, and we knew they would, guys. You need to follow Tiff and Jay all season for HBCU football, obviously starting off with the MEAC SWAC Challenge. I have been your host, Lyles Jr. Thank you for watching the HBCU Kickoff presented by Allstate. We will see you next time.